And welcome once again to Flashpoints. I'm Bob Orr, joined as always by Juan Zarate, our national security analyst. Juan, good to see you.
Bob, great to see you.
Topic for the moment is what's happening in Egypt. We have this elected President Morsi. He's elected by his people, and now he's made a power grab. What's going on here?
What you have is President Morsi having declared that he would limit the power of the judiciary, the Supreme Court in essence of Egypt, to review his decision making. The argument that he's made and that his office has articulated is that this was a necessary constraint on the judicial powers because this is a judiciary that had already dissolved the lower parliament, where the Muslim Brotherhood had a majority, as well as dissolved the Constitutional Assembly, the group that was getting together to actually construct the new constitution for Egypt. And so the argument from his standpoint is we need to limit the power of this vestige of the Mubarak regime so that the country can move forward in a stable way. The problem is the people on the street, those who are looking at this through a jaundiced eye, see a new pharaoh emerging, a new Mubarak, in a way trying to gather all the elements of power within the state, trying to limit those that would check or balance the presidential power, and really starting to raise questions as to what this government really is about and what the Muslim Brotherhood as a movement, not just a political party, but as a movement, is really intending with its power in Egypt and maybe beyond.
Let's talk about the timing of this and what it might say about the motive or what his goal is. It was after the flare-up in Gaza, where Morsi was credited with being the broker that ended that fight between Israel and Hamas. It was within days of that he comes out and asserts these new powers. How do those things connect?
Well, you see, I think, an emboldened President Morsi in Egypt. He was seen as somebody who helped to broker the peace deal, sort of placed himself regionally in a very important place, as someone who had backed Hamas in a way that perhaps Mubarak wouldn't have. And so, in some ways, I think he felt emboldened. Recall, too, at the time that this was happening, Egypt was also finalizing their deal for a loan from the IMF, which was a very important deal economically for President Morsi. And so the stars were aligning in some way, and I think it emboldened Morsi to take this step internally. I'm not sure, though, that he could have predicted the type of protests and opposition that you've seen now emerge even in Tahrir Square to that what is perceived as a real power grab and the labeling of him as the new pharaoh.
What can the U.S. do about this? I mean, we do have some purse string control here to a degree, but what can we really do about this?
Well, I think the purse strings is the most immediate and obvious strategic lever that we have. Recall that we give the Egyptian military about $1.3 billion a year. Egypt as a whole is the second largest recipient of U.S. aid next to Israel. And President Obama has pledged, as of last year, $1 billion of extra aid to Egypt. Plus, we're important in institutions like the IMF or with the EU to garner other loans and grants and aid to Egypt. And so that is a huge element of power here, because recall that the Egyptian economy has been doing very poorly. Tourists are not flowing in at the rates they once did. The Egyptian economy has been mismanaged, and a key portion of the program for this new government is to try to get the economy on its feet. And so that kind of assistance can be a huge lever if the U.S. decides to use it, to condition the aid, to have demands before opening up our wallets to help the Egyptian government.
And going forward, I mean, how does this resolve itself? Does Morsi go back towards the middle? Does he embrace more democratic reforms? And if he doesn't, can it still be a legitimate government? Will the people there stand for this?
Well, you see, this is a government in formation and a new polity in formation. Keep in mind that a constitution is being crafted, that sort of the power dynamics between the different elements of the government as well as political parties are still being worked out. Control of different ministries is actually still kind of playing out. And so I think this is part of a process where President Morsi and the Muslim Brotherhood as a party are trying to push the envelope, trying to gain power little by little. And so you'll see now that they've been pushed back some accommodation. And you've seen this already with talks with the judiciary, some discussion of the limitations of what Morsi has declared. And so I think what you'll see over time is a two-step forward, one-step back approach by the Muslim Brotherhood and this president to acquire elements of power to be able to consolidate power, not just in the near term, but for the establishment of the Constitution and the long-term governance of Egypt.
Well, clearly it's not a settled situation in Egypt.
Not at all.
Okay. Well, we'll leave that there for the moment. Juan, thanks as always.
Thank you, Bob.
Thanks to you for watching Flashpoints. We'll see you next time.